Hey guys, it's me, Millie time. I'm not in my Jeep. I'm actually in my daughter's room. It's the only room not getting re-renovated at the time. So today we're gonna go over the Maya case. You're gonna see me looking over this way because I have my notes over here. Um, but first we're gonna talk a little bit about May. May was a um, Navy specialist, which she wasn't in the Navy. She worked for the Navy. And basically, what she did was she wrote contracts, and the contracts that she wrote or approved of were contracts that were made to upgrade military ships or military buildings. So let's just say there was a ship that needed to get upgraded from Cat 5 cable to Cat 6 cable or Cat 7 cable, or the whole system, like the cane system or whatever system needed to be used or fixed. She would approve all the government furnished equipment and material and send it down my way and we would fix it, right? That's what she did for a living. She did make in the six digits. That's what she made a year. Um, she was a mother of three. She was a wife. She was a sister. She was a daughter. She was an auntie. She was a friend. Now, um, she was gifted. May was gifted. She was gifted with the ability to learn things like this. She had a photogenic memory. She was smart. She was a good teacher. She was a good mentor. Everybody loved her. She was just a really good person all around. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have her flaws. She obviously did have her flaws, right? So one of those flaws is being able to connect to people, which is a flaw, but then it's not. Being able to connect to people with emotionally, right? So she was able to connect. She was able to make friends. She was a social butterfly. She liked hiking. She liked biking. She liked riding her dirt bike. She liked jeeping. She was very active and very adventurous. That being said, me being a female and almost kind of like her, it's really hard to be around men and laugh and giggle and have them not think that you're flirting, okay? Um, and for me to have male friends, luckily my husband is not a jealous man. He knows I have male friends and he knows everything is great. Unfortunately for her, it didn't work out like that, right? Her husband was very jealous, very insecure. I believe he's probably got a form of autism, like up on the higher end of the spectrum, but I do believe he's autistic. But that's just me working with autistic kids, raising an autistic daughter. There's signs, right? But anyways, so she was the breadwinner of the home. She's the one who made the majority of the money. Now we're gonna talk about Larry. Larry, from what I'm understanding, was a good worker, which is um and people liked him. He can talk to people or whatever, and people enjoyed being in his company. But that being said, we have to remember that um with narcissism there comes narcissism, which is something that he was. Um, comes a lot of insecurity. So he was a very insecure man. As much as he looked like he was on top of things, he was not. He was insecure. He didn't know how to make friends. He was socially awkward. He didn't speak much. If there was a party, he kind of like stay quiet. There wasn't much for him to say, right? And in his mind, he's smarter than everybody. He needs to protect the city of Chula Vista. He's the one that people come to because he was in the military, and he embellishes quite a bit. And none of this am I saying that he's a bad person because everybody seemed to have loved him, right? But he has all of the signs of your classic psychopath or narcissist, like way up here, like in clusters, right? So he, and if you listen to some of his interviews, he does talk about how he's trying to save the city of Chula Vista. He's trying to save the community. That's why he had his guns, because he had to protect the community, you know. Let me turn off my cell phone. And all these, things where he felt like he was a savior. He talks about how he was in the military. Now, the embellishment that I talk about is he tells everybody that he was security. He was not security. He was um, a paper pusher. He worked in a firm, not to downsize what he does or to minimize what he does. He worked in an optometry office. He was a front clerk, and his safety duty consisted of making sure that um, the locks in on the blood stuff was taken care of. They was signed in and signed out to make sure that anything that had to do with bodily fluids or whatever was taken out into the trash, into the red bins. Um, that was the extent of his safety, being the safety guy, right? Um, he made, I believe it was like $55,000 a year. So if he would have been alone on his own, he wouldn't have been able to make it here in San Diego, much less in Eastlake where they live, right? So again, not to downplay who he is, he must, seems to be a great father or whatever. He enjoys spending time with his kids. He enjoys family time. But you have to remember that again, that family time just consisted of his little circle. Whereas for with May enjoyed being with friends and being with family and barbecues and camping and bike riding and playing at the park. Where for him, it was kind of more, he was an introvert, so he kind of just wanted it to be them. And he didn't like to share he didn't like the limelight and he didn't like her to have it either. Okay. So that's a little bit about those two. Um, Now, she was from the Philippines. She's from an island from the Philippines. They immigrated into Hawaii, and Larry's family were immigrants from another island, and they immigrated to San Diego. So Larry did get arrested for stabbing somebody when he was 17. They sent him to Hawaii. He moved to Hawaii just to get him out of trouble, and that's where he was at. The guy who he did. Um, I don't know if I can say it or not. The guy that he did hurt at the McDonald's just recently got out of jail himself, right? So anyways, he was in a group with a group of other boys that were all Filipino, and they called themselves a name, and that was who he ran with. When he got to Hawaii, he met Maya and they got together, they got married, joined the military, went to Virginia, from Virginia came back to San Diego, and so on. Then he got out. So he's not a lifer. I think he did 6 years. Um, so that's, they got married. They lived in Marietta. From Marietta, they moved down to Chula Vista, and they bought this house here. That's just in short. Okay, so now that you have all that background, now we're going to talk about, hold on. So in 2020 is basically when everything started happening. So January, February, March, and April, they were having a lot of issues. And he was starting to get very possessive and very controlling, right? She decides she's going to move out, and this was probably in mid-May. She decided she was going to move out. Once she moved out, um, he started having one of the other family members, again, a flying monkey, who, and I don't mean that with any disrespect. That's if you look up the term, it actually exists. So between May and I want to say July, let me make sure I'm not giving you wrong numbers. Yes, between May and July, um, he had one of the family members basically recording everything that she did. And I don't mean by recording like videotaping or whatever. I mean like recording like writing it down or texting him and letting him know what's going on. So if she went to Walmart, he knew about it. He would ask, what did she come home with? Um, what did she do? How long was she gone? So he would ask all these questions, and sure enough, the family member would give him this information because the family member didn't know any better. The family member thought that what he was saying was true. She was going crazy. She was having a midlife crisis, right? And that's basically how the majority of 2020 came. Okay, June 12th, he tried calling her and he couldn't find her. She was unreachable. And he would write these notes in his calendar. The only reason I have these dates is because if you watch the preliminary hearing, his calendar gets brought up. So June 12th, 12 p.m. Larry finds out May is unreachable and puts notes down until about 3. She was reachable to about 3:30. June 14th. There was a note on this and May's not wearing her ring. She went to Burgers or whatever. And then goes to work without notice. In other words, she went to work and he didn't tell her she didn't say she was going to work. At that was at 11:45. At 3 o'clock, she's unreachable. At 6:30, May went to Walmart. She didn't pre-order anything. She didn't buy anything. And I don't know what MSU means, but it says MSU always pre-orders. I don't know what that means, but these were his notes, right? So keep in mind, he's stalking her now. So we went from being a controlling husband to now stalking. So then you have, if we go down into mid-July, and in mid-July at 4:20, May sends herself a post. So she was smart. And if you're going through DV or going through some type of situation like this is a good thing to do. So what May did was she made another email address and she would send notes and screenshots of things that were being said and done to herself. Her knowing that that if something happened to her, the police would investigate and they would find it. Right. And that's exactly what happened. That's how come we have these dates and stuff of what she did, because she emailed it to herself. Even back in August of 26, sorry about the extra noise back there. She called the lawyer's office and asked him to meet her, to help her with the divorce. And then now she moves back in because, so I'm going through these things really quick. So, oh wait, sorry. So the text message talks about how he's trying to poison her with some type of flowers or whatever. She ended up moving back in because he sent her a text message with their youngest child. At the time, he would have been like 2 or 3, surrounded with pew-pews, right? Pew-pews, and thousands of the stuff that you put in the pew-pews. And then there was 4 passports. And those 4 passports were the 3 kids and his. Hers was not there. So when you're being manipulated this way all the time, you start to learn to automatically assume the worst, right? So would it have been me? My first thought would have been, he's gonna do something to me and take my kids, right? That would have been my first thought. Mm, so, and then she writes another email about how it's time for her to leave. She really needs to go. He's and throughout November and December, Larry's looking up things on Google about how to subliminally change somebody's mind. So how to make her suck on a corn, right? How to make her love him more, how to do all these things, right? And during that same time frame, he's emailing voodoo people from Louisiana or whatever on Fiverr, asking them to put a spell on her, to make her love him, to make her break all her bones, because that's the only time she loves him is because he has to take care of her. So put that in place with the poisons that he was giving her and the vitamins that were making her sleepy and all the things that he was giving her and making her do these things. You start to put things together. Yes, this is all circumstantial, but it's all got proof that that's what he was doing, right? So on top of that, there was a time where, let me see, he started sending her Bible verses about how a wife who thinks about cheating has one foot in the grave, or how women back, I think it was like in Deuteronomy or whatever, women get stoned for cheating or whatever. Like he was already like now he's trying to use the Bible, trying to use curses. There's so many things. He was desperate. He was trying to do what he could to make his wife come back, right? So now we're going to fast forward. This is all through December. Now, that was on Christmas Eve, right? She wrote she on Christmas Eve, December 24th at 3:11 in the morning. She writes herself an email that says it's time for me to go. I need to leave, right? So I'm not going to tell you what that email said because it's on the preliminary and I'm not going to sit here and read it because I'm already at 14 minutes, right? So I'm not going to sit here and read that whole email, but if you want to look at it, it's on the preliminary hearing, which is also on YouTube. So January 3rd is a what? What day is January 3rd? Let me check. Let me ask Siri. So January 3rd is a Sunday, right? So now we're at Sunday. It's January 3rd. And Larry is writing his boss, Terry. So Terry starts sending him verses about how the Lord puts you through trials and blah, blah, blah. Ephesians 4:11-14. Don't know what it means. Don't know what it says. Really don't care. Then he sends him another one. This is at 10:21. At 10:26, he sends him another one from John 16:33. At 10:49, Terry tells Larry, he's asking him, not to worry, just to pray. Everything's gonna work out the way it's supposed to. Just keep praying. And then Larry tells Terry, hard time keeping the worry in check, meaning that he's extremely worried about her leaving. And then Terry says, he's asking him if he's tried to relax, right? So January 4th is a Monday, and from 10:15 to 10:33, texts between Terry and Larry about how he's on his way to work. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what his schedule is, but for some reason, he's only been going into work until 12. So, I mean, at 12. So, and then at 5:56 that Monday, May received an email from a lawyer. She had been asking about getting a divorce, right? So now we're on January 5th, which is Tuesday. So because May's talking about divorce again, and because she wants to, sorry guys, she wants to not be with him anymore. She wants to get on with her life, right? Larry automatically assumes that she's having an affair because she doesn't want to be with him. In one of the text messages, I believe he even said she still wants to get a divorce even after I brought home dinner. What does dinner have to do with wanting a divorce? One day of dinner does not clear up even a whole week full of manipulation and stuff like that. It just doesn't clear it up. Nothing you say or do is going to change the fact that you manipulated somebody and you threatened somebody and you wish them to be unalived over and over again. Dinner's not going to change that, right? So, anyways, between 7 a.m. and 12:34, this is what's happening. So, envision this. So, you have Larry calling his boss and he's saying, she's going to divorce me. She's going to divorce me. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He's saying, Terry, saying, calm down, calm down. But it's making him mad. He's just getting more mad, right? So then here comes Larry and he's like, you know what? I know what's going on. I know why she wants a divorce because she's seeing that guy again, right? So then he calls up old boy's wife and says, hey, you know what? Your man is still messing with my woman and I don't like it. Now keep in mind, this man's wife is pregnant. She is pregnant. It is January 5th and she is full blown pregnant. Let's put it this way. The day she went missing, her baby was born. The day May went missing, her baby was born. So he's calling up this, and that's probably why he was born, because he was stressing her out. Larry was calling her and saying, your husband's doing this to my wife and blah 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 blah. After he's done doing all that, he literally said, this was on that same day, so on January 5th at 8:31 in the morning, Larry to Terry talking about how May still wants to get a divorce, even after he brought home dinner. And that was at 8:31 in the morning. Who says stuff like that, right? Larry calls Aunt Kathy and says, hey, I need to drop off Lazarus. And then Kathy goes to Larry, well, what did you guys talk about? And, Larry's dad is asking him, hey, call me back. So now people are starting to call him, right? So then Larry calls his boss and says, hey, you know what? I need to drop off my kid. I'll be into work right now. Then Larry shows Terry the messages about how I want a divorce. I love you. I mean, not I love you. I want a divorce. I can't be with you no more. you're mean to me, you say these things to me, you belittle me, this is what's going on. And you, again, you can go back to the preliminary hearing and listen to that. Um, so then at 11:15 in the morning, all this is going on. Okay, so you've got Larry talking to Terry and to the boyfriend's wife, and then you have the boyfriend's wife talking to the boyfriend, like, what the hell's going on? You said this was over, and whatever. There's never been proved that there was anything intimate between the two of them, but emotionally they were very intimate, right? So now you have a girl going to her husband and being like, what are you doing? Why are you still messing with this chick? And then he calls up May and says, hey, are you okay? Right? So, you know, he's asking, hey, have you been lying to me and talking about lying on me and saying that we're not together, that we're together? I mean, what's going on here? You know, and she's all like, what are you talking about? And, you know, it just starts getting worse. Like, it just starts going, he got this little piece of snowball, and he just started making it bigger. There was nothing there to make anymore. Even if there was earlier, there was nothing now, right? So that's all on January 5th. So now come January 6th, which is Wednesday, um, you know, she's like, what's going on? She's overwhelmed. Um, it's just going crazy nuts. And she gets up to go to work, and she calls up the boyfriend and says, hey, I just want to check on you, make sure everything's okay. I'm sorry about my husband. I know what he's doing. He's going crazy. There's all kinds of things going on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that you and I are just friends, blah, 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 right? So she's like, you know what? I'm done with this. This is too much drama for me. That's it. This is all in text. They're not talking, they're in text, right? He tells the boyfriend, I can't do this anymore. You and I can't even be friends. We can't see each other like that anymore. That's it. I'm done. I'm over this. There's too much going on, right? Now Larry sends a text from May. Um, no, Larry sends Terry a text from May, and then Terry starts saying, hey, dude, when are you coming to work? Right? You haven't came into work. So he missed work on Wednesday. He didn't show up. Um, and Terry's like, I need you to do some stuff here at work because it's all messed up. I need you to help me out here. What's going on? It's not working. And Larry just like, yeah, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. I got some plans I gotta do, right? So keep in mind that he had May's phone, right? So now we're on January 7th, and this is the day that she went missing. So keep in mind, this has been going on since January of 2020, right? It's just been escalating and escalating. Larry's mind has been going crazy, like, what's going on? What's going on? He went to her work and said, you know what? I don't want no men working with my wife. Remove everybody. He emailed her boss, you name it. The boss is like, hey, dude, you got to control your husband. It was embarrassing. It got to a point where it was embarrassing, and it's too much, right? It's too much. Like, I tell you right now, let my man tell me that I can't work around men. Dude, I'm out. No, that's too much, right? So there's a lot going on. It's overwhelming. Kids are being threatened. Life is being threatened. Job is being threatened. Everything is just falling around her. She lost a lot of weight. She's keeping track of everything. She's emailing herself all these notes of what's happening and screenshots of text messages where he's wishing her dead. I don't know. I'm going to figure out how to beep that out. But he's sending messages wishing her to be unalive. There's so many things going on, and it's overwhelming, and nobody is believing her. That's the worst part, is that nobody is trusting her and nobody is believing her. Nobody has her back. And for those of you guys that are watching this, that have been through this before, or have friends that are going through this, stop saying that they're crazy, because they're not. This stuff really happens, okay? It happened to my mom, and it happened to May. It's happened to plenty of people. It's happening to one of my best friends right now. It's too much, right? So, anyway, so the May sends out the messenger at around 2:30, at 2:03 on the 7th, and says, "Hey, I just want to make sure that you're okay, right? I just need to know that you're okay with everything that's gone on, right?" That was the last outgoing mail message that she made on her cell phone, or on her with the Apple message or whatever, right? Now, That same day, she comes home. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She comes home. She got her dress on. She got her work clothes on. She goes inside the house. You can hear the kids in the audio saying, "Let's go wash the car." She got the Jeep. She's about to go wash the Jeep. Everything's about to be happy there. She's scheduled for Sunday to go to Big Bear. It's going to be a big old family event. They were going to go snowboarding. They were going to go skiing. They were going to go play in the snow. They were going to stay in a cabin. They were going to have so much fun for the baby girl's birthday. That was the plan. So it's 3 o'clock. She's loading up the Jeep. She loads up the kids. They go wash the Jeep. They come back. It's 5:45-ish, 5:30-ish. They run inside the house. They see her still loading up. She brings suitcases down to the bottom of the stairs, and then it gets quiet. Oh no, I'm sorry. She's emailing her family. I changed the dates. We're gonna go tomorrow. We're checking in tomorrow. We're gonna be there. We're gonna leave tomorrow to Big Bear. 8:30, I believe, was the last time that they heard anything from her, and that was it. So now we go to the audio. I don't know how to add it onto here. I'm gonna try, but just in case I don't, I don't know how to do it. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know how to do it, and I will learn how. But right now, I don't know how to do it. So, anyways, in one of the audios that you could hear, and you can go on TikTok. If you follow me on TikTok, you can see. Let me see, what's my name on TikTok? Um, I don't know my name on TikTok. Sorry, guys. Uh, if you follow me on TikTok, and I have shared it before. My name on TikTok it's MellyTime619. It's MellyTime619. So there's an audio there where you can hear one of the younger girls say, "You unalive," not that word, right? But "You unalive my mommy," and then hear him say, "Get in the effing room." You hear the shots of the pew pew. But here's the thing: is that there was absolutely no blood in the house. That is also mentioned in the preliminary. There's no blood in the house. There's no sign of a struggle, and you know, nobody knows what's going on, right? So, anyways, they hear the shots at around 10:59 p.m. The kids are outside playing. It's January 7th. Um, it's maybe 40 degrees outside. What are the kids doing playing outside in the backyard that late at night, right? And then if you actually listen to it, they're not laughing. It says that you can hear them laughing. They're not laughing. They're screaming. And um the grandparents, I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, what about the grandparents? The grandparents weren't living, they had just moved out on Christmas Day or whatever. So they were out in Texas. Okay. So, anyway, so they're at the house. You can hear the dog barking. You hear the shots. Then you hear the dog go, "Ooh," or, "Arr," and then there's no more dog barking. So, my question now is, where's the dog? And what were you shooting at? Right. So, you can hear it ding off of something like off a bar or maybe like off a security door. Um, but that was there. Now, do I think she was unalived in the house? I personally do not think so, because if as many as the shots that went off, and if it would have hit her, you would have known, right? Would be there. But anyways, so um on January 8th, which is Friday, from 11:52 to 7:15 p.m., there was absolutely no activity on her phone at all whatsoever. No outgoing calls, no text messages, no incoming texts. At 11:52, I'm sorry, on Larry's phone, or I don't remember. I wrote something on here. Somebody's phone didn't have any activity. At 11:52, Grandpa asked him to call his boss, and to take care of him, and and the baby, right? So everybody attempted to call May and Larry. The brother, the co-workers, friends tried to call, the aunt, the uncle, the grandfather, or his dad. All of them are trying to call Larry. Nobody knows what's going on. Now this is on the 8th, right? So then we have that Larry went dark that day between 6:34 and 6:35 all day, right? So he was gone all day that Friday. Yeah, that Friday, which was on the 8th. All day, all day, all day he was gone. Um, and his boss is messaging him, "Hey, how are you? His aunt, his, hey, if you're not too busy or you're not going anywhere, call me. His aunt again, hey, are you home? His aunt again, hey, did she come home yet? Keep in mind, she was already home. So if she's asking him on Friday, where, where is she? Wait, rewind. So if Kathy is asking him, did she come home yet? That means he's already telling Kathy that she's not home. But she would never left the house. You see video of her walking into the house at 5:45. You never see her walking out. Never. The only car that you see leaving is at 6:34 in the morning, and that is because Larry is backing up into the garage just to get enough to lift the tail up of the van where you cannot see. And he said it himself. He says on one of his interviews, he says they can see, but they can't see because it's too dark. That's exactly what he says. Because he knew. So what happens when you open up the garage door? You push the button and it goes. Zzz, the light turns on. It goes zzz, right, and it opens up. There was no light turned on when this garage door opened. There was no light. That means he physically turned off the light before he opened the door. He dismantled the light before he opened the garage door, unless it was broken before, right? So it comes in or whatever. So now at 4:51, he's saying, "Hey," Kathy would say, "Hey, did she come home?" Well, she already came home. She was home at 5 o'clock the day before. What do you mean that she didn't come home? So now keep in mind at 3:30 in the morning, some car showed up, and I think it was Kathy, and I'm not gonna go into that right now. So then um you have so now you have Saturday the 9th. I'm sorry, on Friday, Jerry. Sorry, hold on. Sorry. Okay, so on that day that she went missing, um, so it was sorry. So now on the day that she went missing, remember there was pew pews, there was screaming and yelling, there was a recording. You can hear. I'm so sorry about all that extra noise. There's all these different things that were happening that day, and the last the family heard from her was at 8 and some change, right? So like about 8:30, 8:45 was the last time anybody heard from her. Now during that time frame that all the shots were being heard and the dog was barking and the kids were crying or screaming or laughing or whatever you want to say, it was just them in the house. They said that people called the non-emergency line because I guess they've had to call before due to them screaming and yelling before, but that they just drove by. They didn't stop to check. Right. So that following day, um, one of the brothers showed up at the house and knocks on the door and says, no, that same day, at about the same time that he came home. Um, it was 6:30 and the brother walks into the house. The two daughters were left home alone. Okay. Now, whether they were really left home alone or not, we don't know because I personally think that Kathy was left with the children, and that's why he says I left them with her, not meaning May, but meaning Kathy. Now he left the kids at home with no cell phones, no laptop, no iPad, and by themselves. For a man who's really controlling and possessive, this is not something that they normally do unless they're left with someone that they trust. And we know that he didn't trust May, so I'm gonna say it was Kathy, right? So, anyways, they've been there all day. The brother showed up, and sorry, all of this noise. I'm sorry. So, anyways, I completely forgot where I was. So he left them with I'm gonna say he left her with he left them with Kathy, except for the little boy. He took the little boy with him, and whatever he loaded into the back of the car. Now here's where people are gonna start asking about a freezer. Yes, there was a freezer. Yes, they picked it up. but they didn't pick it up until Saturday. Now, the police did come over around 1 o'clock in the morning, and I don't have any more notes on that. I don't know what happened to those notes, but um, the police did come over at around 1 o'clock in the morning, and they were trying to figure out what's going on. Now, here's the part that kind of sucks. Well, not kind of, it does suck, right? The part that sucks is that um, with narcissists, people tend to believe what they say. So when Larry told the detective that it was a Gone Girl situation, and the detective believed him. That kind of minimized where he thought or what he thought was actually happening, right? I mean, right away you would think that, okay, something gone, she's missing, where's he at? Let's look around, and all this other good stuff. That didn't happen. They didn't search the house until the 13th. So the fact that the detective already felt like it wasn't a there's a dire situation or an important situation, kind of like really not cool, right? But sister's there. Everybody's searching. Everybody's searching, searching, searching. Now, if I knew how, I would put the photo I have of him leaning up against the wall with his navy pants on, just watching everybody look for his wife instead of helping them look. And everybody's going up and down the street looking, 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 nothing. And so this is on that day that she went missing, right? So now we're coming back down to the next day, and that is on a Saturday. Now it's Saturday, it's the baby girl's birthday. Everybody was sitting there complaining or judging her sisters and her brothers for going over there for the birthday party. Now keep in mind, this man has been in their life for over 20 years, and they looked at him as a family member. When you're a family member in a Filipino family, and they've taken you in, you become one of them. So they don't expect you to do anything bad. And this is really bad, right? So, but anyways, so they come over for cake and ice cream for the daughter. The daughter makes a comment on, she didn't come for my birthday. She's hurt, she's depressed. Now, here's where I'm more irritated with Larry than anything else. It's your daughter's birthday. If you're going to choose to do this to your wife, whether you unalive her or you just make her disappear or you kidnap her or whatever the situation may be, you don't do it on your daughter's birthday. You just don't. Because you have to have some type of love for your child, not to imagine your mom going missing on your birthday, how awful you're going to feel. And that's exactly what happened, right? So anyway, sorry guys. So they go over there, they do that, they do the search. The following weekend, they did another search, and that's when I joined in and started paying more attention. So now where we're at right now. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. On the 26th of January, Larry got into her Facebook while he was in Corona and deleted her friends and family, and went through and just kind of deleted a bunch of photos that he didn't like. He deleted a bunch of stuff off of her Facebook. How do we know this? Because those of us that were investigating and helping the family, went in and looked at all of the past history of what they did, Google photos and stuff like that of where she was and stuff, just to kind of have an idea of where we might want to look for her. And that was one of those things, right? So now from January, I started January 21st, I believe it was the, I'm sorry, no. I started the search was on January 16th. It's the first search that I did, and I did every search after that. Um, and that was where I started learning more about what was going on in her life. And being that I grew up in a family where there's a narcissist husband involved, I knew where she was coming from. Like, I knew what her mindset was. My mom had the same mindset. As a child, I had the same mindset. And so I felt the urge to continue to help. And to this day, I'm going to still continue to help. When I go out everywhere, I'm looking for you, May. I am looking for you everywhere we go. Right. So anyways, we're doing all these searches and we're getting all these things. We're finding bones and this and that. We don't know who they belong to, but we're turning them in. And um, somehow, in this mix of things, Larry finds a way to go to Grand Canyon, to Corona, to Menifee. Now, everybody that's trying to defend Larry, I understand. You guys probably know him. Shit, by all means, you guys are probably doing each other. He did cheat. He had a girlfriend up in Marietta. My understanding is rumor, but he also had one in Chula Vista, you know. And people say, well, he was in the Navy, and he was a sailor and this and that. He never deployed. Number one, I know that was one of the biggest things people were saying. Well, he fought in a war. He did not fight in any war. He did not deploy at all. He was all the way 100% a paper pusher. He did not deploy at all. Not minimizing his serving the United States, which is what he did. He did. But you can't blow it out of proportion either. You know what I mean? Yes, you help sailors with their eyesight. That is great. That is awesome because they fight for our country. But you can't use that to blow yourself up. That's very grandiose, right? And that's what narcissists do. They blow things up. He's an amazing husband. He's an amazing community member. He's an amazing father. He's an amazing soldier. He's an amazing eye person, whatever. But in actual reality, he's not. He's just a little man. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's just a little man. He's a little man who felt the need to harm his wife, to control his wife. And when his wife started having more fun than him, it became an issue. Now, keep in mind, he made her give him all of her money. So you'll hear his lawyer say, well, he bought her a Rolex and he bought her Louis Vuitton bag and he bought her a brand new Jeep. Nah, fools. No, 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 no. That's not how this works. He made $50,000 a year. She made over 115 plus. I'm not going to give the exact amount. I'm going to say 115. I'm going to leave it there because it was a lot more than that. But who bought the Jeep? Who bought the Louis Vuitton? And who bought the Rolex? If he's making 50 and she's making over 115, who's buying it? Definitely not him. Now, technically, physically, he might have said, boom, here's my card. Buy her that watch. Boom, here's my card. Get her that Jeep. But it's not his money. It was not his money. He did not use his money to buy the stuff that she needed or that she wanted. That's not how that worked because he would count everything that she would spend. So she went out to eat. He was counting it to find out, well, it doesn't cost you $23 to have a hamburger. Who did you feed? Type of stuff, right? That's a very, very controlling man. And the sad part is that unfortunately, that this is what the children saw throughout the marriage, and he was able to make them believe that this is the way it's supposed to be. And I hope that those baby girls grow up to be very independent women like their mom, right? But now we're in the trial phase, not even in the trial phase. We did a preliminary hearing and was going to go to trial. And then his lawyer apparently took him for all his money. So then he had to get a new lawyer. His new lawyer needed time to review the case. And now she's pregnant. So now we can't have the case yet. So now the case has been delayed until July of next year. And I'm wondering if he realizes that once he gets to prison, it's a lot easier than being in jail. Jail is a lot harder than it is to be in prison. Like, I don't know. But yeah. But anyways, that's the Maya Milette case. I'm sorry I'm not as interesting as everybody else, but it is what it is, right, guys? It is what it is. Anyways, you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments somewhere. I don't know how this works. And if I could try to figure out how to put pictures up in here during whatever time frame I was talking about, I will. If not, I will try to connect the links to the TikToks that I was talking about onto the bottom of this page. Bye.